In the small town of Ravenswood, nestled between thick woods and fog-covered mountains, there was a mysterious tale that sent shivers down the spines of the locals. It was a story whispered in hushed tones around campfires and told with wide-eyed caution to anyone daring to embark on a long drive through the desolate roads that snaked through the darkened forest. The legend spoke of a phantom driver, a ghostly figure cloaked in shadows, who haunted those who ventured out alone on long drives late at night. According to the eerie tale, the ghostly driver would materialize on the winding roads, a spectral presence behind the wheel of an ancient, rusted car that seemed to defy the laws of time. On one fateful night, a daring traveler named Jonathan set out on a journey through the winding roads of Ravenswood. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the dense foliage that surrounded the narrow road. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness as he navigated the labyrinthine twists and turns. As Jonathan drove deeper into the heart of the forest, the trees seemed to close in around him, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The headlights of his car cut through the darkness, revealing only glimpses of the road ahead. The rhythmic hum of the engine was the only sound that broke the silence, creating an unsettling symphony with the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. Suddenly, the air turned icy, and Jonathan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Glancing nervously into the rearview mirror, he saw nothing but the empty road stretching out behind him. Trying to shake off his unease, he continued the journey, dismissing his growing sense of dread as mere imagination. As he rounded a sharp curve, the headlights of his car illuminated an old, dilapidated vehicle parked at the side of the road. Its windows were shattered, and the metal groaned with the weight of years of neglect. Jonathan slowed down, his curiosity overcoming his apprehension. The ghostly tale had reached his ears, but he was not one to be easily spooked. Cautiously, he approached the abandoned car, the crunch of gravel beneath his tires echoing through the eerie silence. As he examined the rusted relic, a cold gust of wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a faint, distant sound. Jonathan strained to listen, his senses on high alert. It was the mournful wail of a phantom engine, the spectral revving of a long-forgotten motor. Panic gripped him as he realized that the ghostly driver from the local legend might not be confined to mere storytelling. Trembling, he retreated to his own vehicle and continued down the desolate road, haunted by the spectral echoes that seemed to follow him like a malevolent shadow. The forest grew denser, and the winding road became increasingly treacherous. Each twist and turn seemed to lead him deeper into the heart of an otherworldly realm, a place where time itself was warped, and reality blurred into a haunting dreamscape. Suddenly, his headlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the trees that lined the road. The engine sputtered, and the air became heavy with an oppressive energy. Jonathan's heart pounded in his chest as he realized he was not alone on that desolate stretch of road. In the dim glow of his failing headlights, he saw it, a phantom car, its headlights piercing through the darkness like ghostly eyes. Panic set in as the spectral vehicle materialized before him, a rusted relic from a bygone era, driven by an otherworldly force. The ghostly driver, obscured by shadows, stared ahead with vacant eyes that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. Frozen in terror, Jonathan watched as the phantom car slowly approached, its wheels whispering against the asphalt. The air grew colder, and an unnatural silence enveloped the scene. The ghostly driver turned its ethereal gaze toward him, and an otherworldly chill washed over him, freezing him in place. Desperation clawed at Jonathan as he tried to accelerate, but his car seemed to be held captive by an unseen force. The phantom car drew nearer, and the ghostly driver's face, etched with an expression of eternal sorrow, became more distinct. The eyes, once vacant, now held a haunting familiarity. In a sudden flash of realization, Jonathan recognized the ghostly visage before him. It was a face he had seen in old photographs, a face from a forgotten era. The ghostly driver was someone he had never known in life, but whose tragic tale had become intertwined with the very fabric of Ravenswood's haunted history. The spectral figure reached out, its ghostly hand passing through the barrier between their worlds. Jonathan could feel the icy touch, a chilling caress that seemed to seep into the very core of his being. Memories flooded his mind, memories that were not his own, but belonged to the phantom driver. The ghostly apparition was a soul trapped in the purgatory of Ravenswood, cursed to roam the desolate roads for eternity. The tragic story unfolded before Jonathan's eyes. A love lost, a betrayal that led to a fatal accident, and a restless spirit condemned to relive the pain of that fateful night. As the phantom driver's story unfolded, the forest seemed to come alive with the whispers of sorrowful echoes, the shadows dancing to the haunting melody of a bygone tragedy. Jonathan felt a profound connection to the ghostly figure, a shared sense of loss that transcended time and space. In that surreal moment, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred, and Jonathan became a vessel for the phantom driver's anguish. The road ahead stretched into an endless abyss, a journey through the haunted corridors of memory and regret. The ghostly car and Jonathan's vehicle merged into a spectral convoy, navigating the ethereal landscape of Ravenswood's haunted history. The trees whispered tales of forgotten souls, and the wind carried the mournful cries of those trapped between realms. As the night unfolded, Jonathan became a witness to the tragedies that had befallen the spirits of Ravenswood. Each twist and turn of the road revealed a new chapter in the town's haunted chronicles: lost loves, unresolved mysteries, and the lingering pain of souls unable to find peace. The spectral journey continued through the heart of the haunted forest, where the lines between reality and the supernatural became increasingly blurred. Jonathan's own existence intertwined with the stories of the ghostly apparitions, and he felt the weight of their collective sorrow pressing upon him. In the ghostly procession, he encountered phantoms from different eras: a forlorn lover from the Victorian age, a tormented soul from the Roaring Twenties, and a lost child from a time forgotten. Each spirit bore the marks of their untimely demise, their ethereal presence eternally bound to the desolate roads of Ravenswood. As the convoy of ghostly vehicles traversed through the haunted landscape, Jonathan realized that he had become a conduit for the spirit stories. The tales of love and loss, betrayal and redemption, intertwined with his own mortal existence, creating a tapestry of haunting narratives that transcended the boundaries of time. The journey through Ravenswood's haunted history continued, and Jonathan felt the weight of the spirit's pain intensifying. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, a spectral highway that led to the heart of the town's darkest secrets. The air crackled with energy, and the moon cast an otherworldly glow over the surreal procession of ghostly vehicles. As the night wore on, Jonathan became acutely aware of the toll the spectral journey was taking on him. His own memories became entangled with those of the ghostly figures, and the boundary between his identity and theirs blurred. The once familiar road now twisted and turned through the labyrinth of his own haunted consciousness. The ghostly convoy reached the outskirts of Ravenswood, where the ancient cemetery stood as a silent witness to the town's troubled past. The spectral vehicles came to a halt, and the spirits descended upon the graveyard, their ethereal forms dissipating into the misty air. Jonathan, still trapped in the spectral journey, followed the ghostly procession into the cemetery. The tombstones stood as silent sentinels, their weathered surfaces bearing the weight of countless untold stories. The spirits gathered around a forgotten grave, a place of eternal rest for the soul that had haunted Jonathan's journey. As the ghostly figures faded into the shadows, Jonathan stood before the grave, the truth of the haunting tale revealed. The name on the weathered headstone matched the face of the phantom driver, a soul forever bound to the desolate roads of Ravenswood. The tragic tale of love and betrayal had etched itself into the very fabric of the town's history, and Jonathan had become a vessel for its retelling. With a mournful wail, the ghostly driver's spirit emerged from the grave, its ethereal form reaching out to Jonathan. The boundary between the living and the dead dissolved, and for a fleeting moment, he felt the weight of the spirit's anguish. The memories, the pain, and the unfulfilled longing merged into a haunting crescendo that echoed through the graveyard. In that surreal moment, Jonathan became the conduit for the ghostly driver's release. The spectral energy that bound the soul to the desolate roads began to dissipate, and a sense of peace washed over the haunted cemetery. The other spirits, freed from their tormented existence, vanished into the night, leaving behind a profound stillness. As the first light of dawn broke on the horizon, Jonathan found himself standing alone in the silent graveyard. The ancient tombstones stood as silent witnesses to the spectral journey that had unfolded through the night. The haunted roads of Ravenswood, once cloaked in darkness, now basked in the soft glow of morning light. Exhausted and disoriented, Jonathan stumbled out of the cemetery, the memories of the ghostly journey still fresh in his mind. The town of Ravenswood, with its hidden tales of love and tragedy, stood as a testament to the thin veil between the living and the dead. As he drove away from the haunted town, Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling that he had become a part of Ravenswood's haunted history. The ghostly tales, the spectral journey, and the release of the trapped souls lingered in his consciousness, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lurked in the shadows of the desolate roads. The legend of the phantom driver lived on, but now, it carried a new chapter, a tale of redemption and release. The long drive through the haunted forest had become a journey of transcendence, a passage through the realms of the supernatural and the human, where the boundaries between the living and the dead were tested and ultimately dissolved. And so, as the sun rose over the darkened mountains and the town of Ravenswood returned to its slumber, the legend of the phantom driver took on a new twist. The haunted roads, once a source of fear, now held the echoes of a cathartic journey, a testament to the enduring power of stories that transcend time and mortality. As for Jonathan, he carried the weight of the spectral journey with him, forever changed by the encounter with the ghostly figures of Ravenswood. The road ahead stretched into an uncertain future, but the haunting tales of the town would forever be etched into the fabric of his own existence, a part of the haunted history that lingered in the recesses of his memory. Story 2. Once upon a moonlit night, in the heart of autumn, a lone driver named Jake found himself on an isolated stretch of highway that seemed to stretch into eternity. The trees lining the road whispered secrets of the past, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy. Jake, a seasoned truck driver, had never experienced such an eerie feeling on the open road. As he continued his journey through the desolate landscape, the only company he had was the rhythmic hum of the engine and the soft glow of the dashboard lights. The occasional flickering of the streetlights cast eerie shadows, creating a haunting atmosphere that sent shivers down Jake's spine. Miles passed, and the monotony of the road began to play tricks on his mind. He started to notice faint glimmers in his rearview mirror, a fleeting shadow that seemed to dance at the edge of his vision. At first, he dismissed it as fatigue, attributing the strange sightings to his tired eyes. As the night deepened, the glimmers became more pronounced, and Jake's unease grew. He could now make out the shape of a figure, a silhouette that lingered just beyond the reach of the headlights. The mysterious entity seemed to be keeping pace with the truck, its form shifting and contorting like mist in the wind. Desperation crept into Jake's voice as he spoke to himself, trying to rationalize the unexplainable. He turned up the radio, hoping the music would drown out the unsettling presence that seemed to be closing in. But the whispers of the ghostly trees and the distant moans of the wind only added to the surreal ambiance. With each passing mile, the apparition in the mirror drew nearer. It appeared to be a spectral hitchhiker, faceless and ethereal. Panic set in as Jake realized that no matter how fast he drove, the ghostly figure remained just beyond the taillights, an ominous passenger on this lonely highway. In a final act of desperation, Jake pulled over at a deserted roadside diner, its neon sign flickering with a ghostly glow. As he stepped out of the truck, the air became thick with an eerie silence. The spectral hitchhiker, now more distinct than ever, stood by the roadside. In the dim light, Jake could see the figure's face, or rather, the absence of it. The ghostly entity extended a translucent hand toward Jake, as if silently beckoning him to join the ghostly caravan. Terrified, Jake jumped back into his truck and sped away from the haunting scene. The ghostly figure receded into the shadows, its spectral form dissipating like mist in the night. From that day forward, Jake became known among truckers as the one who encountered the ghostly hitchhiker on the long, haunted highway. His tale served as a cautionary reminder to those who dared to traverse the desolate roads in the dead of night, for some spirits, it seemed, were condemned to wander eternally, seeking solace in the company of the living. Story 3. The night was pitch black as Mark set out on a desolate highway, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to swallow the feeble glow of his headlights. He was on a long drive, racing against time to reach his destination before dawn. The radio crackled with static, and the only sound that echoed through the car was the rhythmic hum of the engine. As Mark drove deeper into the night, an eerie fog began to creep in, wrapping the road in a mysterious shroud. Uneasiness settled over him like a heavy blanket, and he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Glancing nervously into the rearview mirror, he saw nothing but the thick mist. Just as he tried to shake off his paranoia, a faint figure materialized ahead, standing at the side of the road. Mark squinted through the fog, and his heart skipped a beat as he saw a woman in a tattered, white gown. Her long, disheveled hair hung over her face, concealing her features. She extended a pale, trembling hand, gesturing for Mark to stop. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over him, but his sympathetic nature got the better of him. Mark slowed down and reluctantly rolled down his window. The woman's voice, soft and mournful, reached out to him. "Please. Help me. I need a ride." Despite the chill that ran down his spine, Mark couldn't turn away. He unlocked the door, and the mysterious woman slid into the back seat without uttering another word. The atmosphere inside the car grew colder, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. As Mark resumed driving, he stole glances at the rearview mirror, trying to catch a glimpse of the woman's face. Yet, her features remained hidden in the shadows. The tension in the air became palpable, and Mark's anxiety intensified with every passing mile. Suddenly, the woman whispered, her voice slicing through the silence like a cold wind, "You shouldn't have stopped." Mark's grip tightened on the steering wheel as he felt the temperature in the car plummet. He stole a quick glance at the rearview mirror, and to his horror, he saw the woman's reflection was now distorted, her face twisted into a grotesque mask of despair. Panicking, Mark stomped on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt. The woman in the back seat slowly turned her head, her hair parting to reveal empty, soulless eyes that bore into Mark's very core. Terrified, Mark fumbled for the door handle, throwing himself out of the car and stumbling onto the desolate road. He watched in horror as the spectral figure in the back seat vanished into the mist, leaving him alone in the darkness. To this day, Mark refuses to speak of that night. Some say the ghostly hitchhiker preys on those who dare to stop for her, a vengeful spirit forever trapped in the lonely stretch of highway, seeking solace in the fear of unsuspecting travelers.